Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikon here coming at you with another edition of the Cons Cast. And in today's episode, I'm going to be bringing you a couple of tips for Dauntless. With the launch of the game both on PC as well as on consoles, we've seen a flood of new players come into the game, as well as a bunch of returning players join back into the fray, myself included. So I figured this would be a good time to run down through some of the basics of the game. If you are a veteran slayer, there probably isn't a whole lot of value for you in this video. However, you never know. So without any further ado, let's get started. The very first tip that I got to give you is complete quests. And I know this is a very basic tip, but it is also very easy to just get lost in the whole thing of, oh, I want to craft this armor and I want to craft this weapon. And you kind of sometimes might forget to actually check up on your quests. And it is important to optimize that because there is a lot of content to do. However, in order to unlock a lot of the content, it is required that you do complete a lot of these quests that will show up in the game. So if you guys look at my game screen right now, you can see that there are a couple of icons in that radar up top, and that's what you want to look for. Every time that you come into town after a hunt, just do a quick 360 and look for any of these glowing icons. Sometimes you will have exclamation marks, other times you'll have question marks. Now, question marks, as you guys have most likely been conditioned to see, are when you are completing quests. So in this particular case right here with Will's Borman, one of the quests that I have to complete is to craft a weapon. So I actually can't complete that quest yet because I need a couple of more materials. I'm supposed to be crafting this Valamir weapon, but I gotta go chop his tail and break his horns or something of the, along those lines. And I haven't been able to do that, but this would be one of the quests that you would want to complete. And in most cases, when you have the golden question mark, just go up to the NPC, complete the quest. However, if it is a gold exclamation mark, you want to go there and accept the quest. If you guys look at my quest log right here, you can see that I have pretty much all of the quests available to me active right now. Now, the reason you want to make sure that you pick up all of these quests is because then you can actually read through them. You don't have to read through the quests as you are picking them up. If you're someone like me, I just run by and I pick up everything. I read nothing whatsoever, and then I just go into the quest log and I figure out what I'm going to be optimizing, because you do want to optimize the route to the quest that you do, all of that stuff. The other thing is, make sure to pay attention to your hunt pass challenges, which are basically your weekly quests. As you guys can see right here, complete 10 neutral patrol hunts, slay 10 behemoths using chain blades or hammers, complete 10 frost patrol hunts, all of this stuff, right? You want to be aware of these things so that then you can kind of like decide, what should I actually be doing in order to take advantage of as much as I possibly can. So for instance, I got the Maelstrom effect, which requires me to get Naizaga, Sheath, Karabak, Sheath, and Stormclaw, and I already know that these are lightning as well as neutral behemoths. So for instance, one of the hunt pass challenges is to do the neutral patrol hunt, so naturally you would want to combine that. You would do a neutral patrol hunt, which would enable you to sometimes get the Karabak Sheathing. You can also do the neutral patrol hunt with a hammer, which would then give you both the neutral patrol hunt as well as just regular hunt using hammers, and there would be a chance of you getting the Karabak there, or maybe something else that you would need to do. Also, you need to dodge through physical attacks. You would be collecting neutral orbs, which I've already done. So basically, pay attention to your quests, complete your quests, and see opportunities where you can actually optimize the stuff that you want to do. So for instance, I got quests to kill certain shock behemoths, as well as quests for gathering the special shock material that you can get. So I could just go and I could do a shock patrol. And they actually mark these quests along for you as well. So then just be aware of your quests, be aware of stuff that you can kind of like stack and do everything in one hunt, and optimize the stuff that you are doing. Another thing that comes with the season pass, which some of you guys may be like, but I haven't bought the season pass. Don't worry about it, because when you got the hunt pass thing, even if you haven't bought it, there are still some rewards that you can get. As you can see, there's the basic version there, and then there's the elite version. Everybody gets the items from the basic version, so leveling up as much as you possibly can in your hunt pass is going to bring you benefits, even if you're not like an elite season pass holder or whatever, right? And one of the things that you're going to be doing, at least throughout this season, is there's these little collectibles that you can pick up as you run around town, which are these kunai looking things. This is actually a good thing for you to do while you are on a queue, because sometimes queues tend to get long, and I know there has been server problems. They're working out out the kinks and all that stuff. I don't need 100 more comments to tell me how the servers are broken. It's like, I can't really fix the servers for you, sorry. But anyway, pay attention to these knives that you will see throughout the scenery. I've already picked up most of the ones that I've seen today, but you pick these up, and as you pick them up, you will get the 7 out of 10 daily death marks, and these will also give you points towards your hunt pass right there. So collect those kunais, get those quests, do all of that stuff to the best of your ability. So the other thing is going to be, make sure to craft and upgrade your weapons. You want to focus on a specific weapon first. You want to focus on one weapon type when you begin playing the game. Like, really, don't spread yourself all over the different weapons that this game has. I know that it is going to be, it is going to be something that a lot of players might want to, like, oh, I want to check out this weapon, and then I like this other weapon, but really, focus on one weapon as you begin. And I'm going to give you a very brief description around the weapons that the game has available to you. So first you got the swords, which you guys can see right here. There's a bunch of swords that you can craft. And the sword is pretty much the most well-rounded, kind of like jack-of-all-trades type weapon. It is a good beginner weapon. That does not mean that it is a weapon that is only for beginners, because you can do a crap ton of damage if you know how to use the sword properly. The mechanic behind the sword is that you get a special attack that basically allows you to deal range damage using the sword. It gives you these little shockwaves that go with each of your slashes, and it also increases the damage that you do whenever you trigger that. And it's a very good mobile weapon. It's not the most agile of weapons. It's not the highest damaging weapon, but it is one of those easy to pick up, hard to master type weapons. And I mean hard to master because even though it might seem simple, when you start getting into combos and all the different things you can do with the sword, you'll see what I mean. Then you got the hammer, which is actually my main weapon right now. And the hammer might be one of the more complex weapons because it has an ammunition system and all these different things that it can do. But one of the best things that it can do is if you use the concussion mod, you can actually do something that hunters call boop the snoot, which I will get into further detail later. But basically, when monsters charge at you, you can use the hammer's shot function to shoot them in the face, and that will give everybody an opening to beat the crap out of them. Also, hammers deal a lot of stagger damage, which means you will be getting some knockdowns. You will tire the monster out. However, hammers cannot sever monster body parts. So certain monsters might have like a horn in front that you will want to get. You can't sever that with the hammer, just like you can't chop off tails using the hammer either. So, you know, that is something that you need to keep in mind. Personally, I really love the hammer. It's got a lot of really cool stuff. You can also use it for mobility, and it's got buffs, and it's a really cool weapon. Then you got the chain blades. Now, these are your most agile, the fastest hitting weapons, and the thing about them is, like I said, they're called chain blades. So basically what they do is you can stretch them out with a chain, and you can get a lot of range with this weapon, which I believe also allows it to do the whole boop the snoot thing without really getting hit all too much. It's got a lot of dodges and evades. It's super fast at dodging, and it's got mechanics to pull you towards the monster and then to force yourself away from the monster. It's a really cool weapon for all you guys that like really fast, agile type weapons. The chain blade's going to be for you. The axe is hands down the slowest weapon in the game. And in my opinion, it is also the highest skill cap, not because of the mechanics behind the axe, but because in order for you to properly utilize the axe, you're going to have need to have the most knowledge of the behemoths out of any other weapon type, because the axe is a charge-up weapon. So you're going to have to charge up before you bring the axe down on your enemies. And if you don't know the behemoth that you're fighting, you're going to run into problems. So you need to know the openings in order to properly use the axe. Having said that, it's got massive damage potential. It's got a really cool mechanic where you throw the axe around, then pick it back up and jump on top of the monsters. Reminds me a lot of God of War, if I'm to be completely honest, because I had a very similar attack that I did in God of War where you kind of recall the axe back and then do a slam down on the monsters. This does mechanics similar to that, and it continuously increases damage that you can do, which is really, really good. Then you also have the War Pike. The War Pike is a very interesting weapon because it's got this unique wounding mechanic that I'm not going to get too in-depth with, but it's got thrusting attacks as well as slashing attacks. It's pretty fast, and on top of it, you build up this gauge that then allows you to fire a really powerful projectile with it. So this is another weapon that is really good for you agile guys out there that want something a little bit more complex than the chain blades, maybe. And finally, there's a new weapon type that they put into the game. There's actually a different vendor that you have to go to, but I'll just show it to you guys here, which is the Ostian Repeaters. And the Ostian Repeaters is the only ranged weapon in the game. However, having said that it is a ranged weapon, it also still demands you to go into the fray from time to time if you really want to take full advantage of it, because if you reload the weapon close to the monster, you're going to get bonus damage. Now, this does not have craftable bullets or anything like that like you have in Monster Hunter. Instead, you modify the weapon, you modify like the barrels and the different parts in the weapon, and that is going to give you different effects. Like, for instance, I got the Saboteur's Grip, which allows me to throw a mine that deals damage at the monster. Instead of that, I could equip the Captain's Grip, which launches instead a collectible buff that anybody can pick up, and it gives them an increase in attack speed. And like that, there's plenty of more moddable sections in the gun. I don't have all the parts. There's also a prism which changes the type, some kind of like proc effects that you can have on the gun. There are a lot of things that you can do with these guns, and they're actually a lot of fun, but at the same time I also find them to be like potentially one of the more easy weapons to use, because you can remain at a bit of a safer distance from the behemoths. But, you know, some behemoths will still challenge you regardless of how far away you are with these guns. So it will still require like a specific playstyle for you to get into, but it is the latest weapon that they've added into the game, and they will probably be adding more weapons into the future. Like, something that you guys need to work on over there, Phoenix Labs, would be a shield weapon, you know? A weapon with a shield, because personally I like shields. You guys know me. You guys know what the idea here is. But anyways, another thing that they've added pretty much since I last played, at least, was the mastery system. And the mastery system is going to be something very important for you to keep tabs in, because, again, it is going to be all about what I was telling you earlier, that you will want to pick a specific weapon and you want to stick with it for a while, because if we go into the mastery system here, you guys will see there's all these different things that you can do. This is basically like a checklist of activities, and it's like a long-term stuff that you can be building over time. I talked about this in my previous video. I'm not the biggest fan of the mastery system, but it is a mechanic that is there, and it would be stupid of me to make a tips video and not include the mastery system. So what is going to happen is, as you complete these different tasks, you will be getting all kinds of different rewards. So there is a mastery level for your Slayer, for behemoths. This means the amount of behemoths that you've killed, for each of the different weapons. And each of these mastery systems is going to give you different rewards. So for instance, I haven't touched axes ever since I've started playing the game again, pretty much. And you guys can see that I have none of these rewards. But if you focus on a specific weapon, you're going to start getting these rewards. And some of the rewards that you get around that weapon are going to actually significantly change the way that you use that weapon and give you further modifications that you can get. You guys can see right here that each weapon mastery will go all the way up until level 20, and you will continuously gain rewards. So you guys can see you got these bronze offense cores. Now these right here are going to give you cells, which essentially kind of work like decorations in Monster Hunter World. You also get the 250 rams, which is the game's currency. This allows you to like buy armor, well, not really buy, but like craft armor, upgrade armor, craft potions, and so on and so forth. The bronze offense core gives you the decoration type stuff, which are called cells in this game. The volatile axe core is actually a modifier that is going to change the way that something that happens in the axe. I haven't seen what it does. Then you can see that you're going to get a special attack as well called Grim Onslaught at level 8. This is why you want to focus on one weapon for starters, because you can start unlocking all of this stuff. You can start developing your own skill around the weapon that you choose, and then on top of it, you can then use that weapon to farm materials for other weapons that you want to get in the future. As opposed to if you just spread yourself all over the place, you're not going to master a weapon. You're not going to get mastery points for that weapon. You're not going to get the modifiers of that weapon, and you're not going to be as efficient as you could be. As you guys can see, I've been focusing on the hammer. One of the bonuses that we get here, this right here weighted down, is just straight up a buff to your hammer. Like, you just equip this thing and flat out your hammer is better. In this case, it increases the amount of stagger damage that you deal, which the hammer is the weapon to basically smack monsters in the head to get them to get stunned, to fall over, all that stuff. And then it gives you this Mighty Landbreaker, which actually changes the concussion thing in the hammer where it just fires a thing. With this one, you can fire a buff that you put on the ground and that players can walk over to increase everybody's stagger damage. There's also the Impulse Crown, which actually I haven't checked what the Impulse Crown is. I just unlocked that. But yeah, there's a bunch of more stuff. There's also the Gold Slayer cores, which again, these bring the cells that allow you to, we'll talk about cells a little bit further into the video. And yeah, you will get stuff like this. Now, if you go off to your own Slayer level, which is the own mastery of your character, which this is just like whenever you do something like kill a behemoth, complete anything in the mastery of behemoths or anything in the mastery of weapons, your own Slayer mastery level goes up and you get stuff. And as you guys can see, the more stuff you get, eventually you do start getting a lot of things in the mastery system that are gameplay changing. So like the cores, which give you the cells, but not just that, because you actually get additional health at level 21. You get additional stamina. You get more chances to, what's this? Double behemoth kill loot? Okay, you get more chance for killing double behemoth quests. You get better chance, you get better consumable stuff that you can gather during missions. You get more health, more stamina. So this will give you in-game advantages. It's not just like, you know, as a matter of fact, everything here is going to give you in-game advantages, which is why it's so important for you to pay attention to the mastery system, as well as on the behemoth side of things. So you'll want to keep tabs on this and always make sure that you're working towards something in your mastery. Usually, you don't have to worry too much about this at the start, but I believe that the more you level up in the game, eventually you will start to have to look at specific objectives like, oh, maybe I'll need to hunt more Drasks, or maybe I'll need to hunt a Drask wearing Drask armor to get more mastery out of behemoths so that I can keep leveling up. So usually this is kind of like a passive thing. The thing that you should focus on is just stick to one weapon at the start and then start diversifying as you experiment more with the game. But yeah, it is what it is. That is the mastery system. But as I was saying, the other thing about you sticking to one weapon at the start is that you're going to need to upgrade that weapon. You're going to need to craft that weapon. You're going to need to craft different versions of that weapon. And being able to just stick to one and funneling all of your materials into that one weapon. Like, I used the Ember Maul for the longest time because it's a really, really powerful weapon. You can see that it's got this unique effect, which you will want to check on different weapons that you craft. Like, go for one that has a unique effect that you want, which in this case, on the 5th hit, I will get plus 100% stagger damage, which again, stagger is the hammer's specialty, which is really good. Another really good weapon would be the Hellion over here, which increases the damage on the 6th hit. And there's plenty of other modifiers that you can get. Just be aware that not every weapon has a special modifier yet. So for instance, if you go to the Quill Shot, the only thing it's got is +1 acidic, but every weapon has a skill of its own. As you can see, this weapon has 2 effects, this one only has 1. So I would go for the weapons that have 2 effects, but that's just me. Just pay attention to the stuff that you're crafting. Don't just go for looks, or don't just go for damage either. Just pay attention to the things that you're crafting and the unique effects that they have, because that is pretty important. Not only that, but you'll also make sure to upgrade that weapon after you craft it, because you know, you can upgrade weapons. Same thing for armor. Craft your armor, upgrade your armor. I mean, this is pretty much a no-brainer. If you've been playing Monster Hunter World, you know what the deal is. You want to make sure to keep your armor upgraded at all times. You can do mixed sets. You don't have to do the same set for everything. You can constantly swap for whatever pieces that you want. Do keep in mind that this game does have elemental affinity, very much like you've seen in previous games. But in here, elemental affinity is much simpler. So as you guys can see right there, this for instance is a fire armor. So this increases your defenses against fire and decreases your defenses against frost. So you don't want to take a fire armor against a frost enemy, because you're going to get your shit beat up. And the way that it works is very much elemental opposites. So fire is strong against ice. Ice is strong against fire. So if a monster is using fire against you, you want to use a fire armor, but to deal damage to the monster, you want to use a frost armor, because frost is going to be the strongest against its ice body. So that's kind of like the way it's fire body. Sorry. That's kind of the way it goes. Then you also have other elements, like you got Terra and Shock here, the little leaf symbol. That's Terra, that's Earth, which is kind of weird that it's a leaf. Why wouldn't you just put like a mound of dirt or something? I don't know. Maybe it looked like poop when they put it in there. Either way, shock opposes earth, which is the leaf symbol. And then there's fire, there's ice, there's shock, there's earth. And there's two more elements, which is radiant and umbra, which I don't have anything of Umbra yet. I do have some Radiant stuff because I'm starting to work on Valamir. So those two right there are Radiant and Umbra, so it's kind of like light and dark. And again, they oppose each other as well. There's also monsters that do not have an element, which is, this is where if you look into a weapon, it will actually tell you. Let me swap to a regular weapon though, because the repeaters, I'm not super familiar with them. If you have a weapon and you go over, actually I didn't need to equip that, sorry. If you go into an elemental weapon, like right here, the Onus of Boreas, this is an ice weapon, and if you then look to the right there, you can see elemental attunement, 100 versus neutral. This means that if you use this ice weapon on, say for instance, a shock enemy, because shock enemies are not affected by ice at all, it would be neutral, so it would be 100% damage. That's it. If, however, you use this frost weapon against a fire monster, which would be weak towards it, you would deal 180 of the damage, so which is a lot more. So therefore, you definitely want to bring this if you want to fight a fire monster. If, however, you use this against a frost monster, which is strong against frost, you're going to get only 60 of the damage. So that's how that kind of works out. So some monsters do not have an element, so that would be the neutral. And there's also some weapons that don't have an element, like the Quillshot's Tusk here, or the Shrike does not have an element, so it's basically 100% damage versus everything. So if you're starting out, or maybe if you just want to have, like, say, a side weapon for doing quests or something like that, because, like, for instance, this week, the quests required you to do hammer or chain blades, right? If you just want to have like a side weapon that you don't really want to use, but you want to have it so that whenever you have like a weekly quest, you can have a weapon that you can use, I would go with a neutral weapon, because then you don't have to worry about the elemental affinity of your enemies, and you can just do that. You don't have to min-max. So you can focus min-maxing on your main weapon, and any side weapon that you want just to complete quests and shit, just use like a neutral weapon. That's what I would do. But, you know, it's up to you guys. If you want to, like, min-max every single weapon, go for it and just have fun with it, basically. That's what I would go for. But, yeah, that's elemental weaknesses and statuses, weapons. I know that that's a lot to take in. If you guys have questions, do remember there is the comment section, but we still have a couple of more things to go over. So let's have a quick look at consumables. So when it comes to consumables, if you guys look at the bottom right-hand side there, you will see that I have a bunch of potions, as well as grenades, as well as a bunch of other stuff. Now, the healing potions, those are the 5 potions on the top. You don't have to craft those. Those are given to you on every quest. Every single quest that you do, you get 5 healing potions, and not one more. At least not at this stage in the game for me. Those 5 healing potions give you 5 heals. You can heal whenever you want. There are some things, some specific skills that will change the way that potions work. Like there's one that slows down. Instead of giving you a big heal, it gives you a slower heal over time. So, you know, that's potions. If you die, the potions icon is going to be replaced by this syringe-looking thing. Every hunter has 3 revives per quest. 3 revives per quest, so keep that in mind. Those are the consumables that are given to you for free. The 5 potions, the 3 revives, you don't have to worry about those. Those are given to you for free. Everything else you gotta craft, and there are 2 guys over here that craft consumables for you, or at least 2 guys that I can craft consumables at right now. And the first one is this one, who's Marcus Borher. He's right next to like one of the main questing things that you can get to, so he's fairly easy to find. And in here you can craft these tonics, which give you the temporary buffs. These are the same ones that you will see for sale on the store. So you can buy these for real money, but as you can see, they're fairly easy to craft. Like, gathering these materials is super easy. But you got here your assault tonic. I haven't unlocked everything that you can craft yet, so there will be more items that you can craft. But basically, try to craft a couple of these to take with you on hunts in case you actually use them. So you got the assault tonic, gives you increased stagger damage if you're trying to get, for instance, the stagger weekly. There's a weekly right now, which requires you to stagger monsters. This would be a good thing to have. It only works for 60 seconds, though. Then you also have this Blitz tonic, which gives you, what is this? increase attack speed based on health missing for 60 seconds, and there's a bunch of more tonics that you can have. As you guys can see there, you can have, besides your potions, you can have 3 more things with you whenever you go onto missions. Actually, I think you can get rid of your potions if you want. I'm not 100% sure. That's actually a good question. Let me see. No, you can't get rid of the potions. The potions are stacked. So you can take potions and 3 more things with you. But you guys are like, oh, Rurikon, but you got grenades in there. The hell is that about? Well, there is a new vendor that was added since I last played, which is this guy right here with the guns. This is a guy that does all of your gun modifications. Like I told you guys that there are all of these different things that you can do with guns, like the standard barrels, blizzard barrels. Like this guy crafts all of your modifications for your gun, which, by the way, if you haven't seen your guns at the usual guy, this is the guy that you got to go to.
Stay on target, Slayer. What do you want?
Besides that, he also crafts grenades. Now, right now, these are the only grenades that I have available to me. But as you complete quests, you're going to unlock further grenades. And grenades is just like a projectile. You literally just throw a grenade to the monster, it explodes, blows up all around him. And actually got Cold Snap and Inferno, which is going to be fire grenade and cold grenade. So you'll want to use the cold grenade on fire monsters and the fire grenade on frost monsters. And I'm sure that as I progress, there's going to be a shock grenade and a terror grenade and all of that stuff. And you just craft these and you can throw these during the hunt. It's pretty fun. Actually, I do like throwing the grenades. It's just I don't usually use them all that much because I don't want to waste my materials. So another thing that I haven't talked about yet is the cells. We talked about cells, and cells are basically, like I said, they're like decorations in Monster Hunter. As you can see, this is my loadout, and something that they need to add, which they haven't added yet, is multiple loadouts. This is going to be important because as you level up and as you advance, you're going to be expected to change your gear on the fly. So like you're going to go into a hunt, you don't know what you're fighting, and then you get there and it's like, okay, it's a fire monster, and you might want to optimize your gear. You have like 1 minute to optimize your gear from the moment that you know that it is a fire monster, and you're going to have to go, oh, okay, I got to equip my my fire armor, and whatnot, which I actually have my fire armor equipped right now, but basically they're going to need to work on loadouts so that you can just like hit a button, here's my fire loadout, here's my ice loadout, just like you have in Monster Hunter. That's something that they need to do. But either way, the cells are these things that you add onto your weapon, which you guys can see right here. Aether Hunter cell, Fireproof cell, and you're going to have a bunch of them, and they're going to be different types. So you guys can see the ones with the fist, those are offensive cells. They're going to increase your damage. The ones with the shield, those are defensive cells. They're going to increase your defense, and different armor pieces are going to have different types of cells. So for instance, I have a chest piece right now that has a utility cell, which I use for Aetheric Attunement, which increases the lantern charge. I'll talk about lanterns in just a couple of seconds. I forgot to talk about those, but we'll get to those. I'm giving you all these tips straight up. But yeah, this is a utility, so it's going to have different types of cells that you can put on there. And if you go to a different armor piece, it might have different types of utilities. Like you can see right here, this armor piece is going to have an offensive cell. This one's going to have a defensive cell. This one's going to have a swift cell, agility cell, I think it's called, because it's got that little wing around it. This one has a utility cell, which is the one that I have equipped. And these different cells are going to give you access to different things. So as you guys can see on my hammer, I got 2 of them. I have the Aether Hunter cell, which increases my damage when the behemoths are enraged. And then I have a Fireproof cell, which increases my fire resistance because this is my fire set. But there are different types of skills that you can have. Like this one protects you against wounded and crippling wound status. This one protects you against being set on fire, which is the one that I'm using. This one grants a small shield after avoiding damage. And the important thing is that all of these are going to stack. All of these skills are going to stack. So for instance, the Brutality of Boreas gives me +1 conditioning. If I was to put, actually I don't have any agility cells in here. Great. Bad example. Let's take a look at Aether Hunter, for instance, okay? So we have +3 Aether Hunter here. If you go down, I probably have Aether Hunter somewhere else because I have +4 over there. I don't know which piece of mine has Aether Hunter. Okay, this one has. The Volcanic Aegis +5 has another +1 to Aether Hunter, and it stacks with the +3 that I already put on that cell. And this increases the overall effect. As you guys can see, it goes all the way to +6 with 50% damage against Aether charged behemoths. So basically, you want to focus on different skills when you actually start getting into min-max. Right now, I'm not at that stage yet because I'm still in the early grind. I'm still gaining my initial cells and stuff, but this is stuff that you will want to start taking advantage of as you move on. So always, always, always equip cells into your gear, because you guys might think, oh, but I put the cell and then I'm going to lose it. You don't lose cells in this game. Cells work just like gems. You can remove them, put them back in freely whenever you want. So there's no limitations as to like, oh, I have to make this real big commitment when I put a cell here. None of that. Just like put whatever you can in there. If you have a cell, put a cell in there. It's better than having nothing. Always put cells into your gear. Make sure that every piece of gear has a cell unless you happen not to have a cell. So another thing that we've touched up on just now were lanterns. Lanterns is another very important aspect of Dauntless. There are a variety of lanterns. I'm actually running right now to the guy that crafts the lanterns, which is this gentleman right here, Arcan Drew.
Hello there.
And right now, these are the lanterns that I have available to me. Usually, it's one lantern per monster. As you guys can see, I have a Pangar lantern, a Shrike lantern, the Recruit lantern, which is what you'll get at the start. And each of these lanterns is going to provide you with 2 different actions. So the one that I use the most right now is Embermane, because it increases my attack speed for 8 seconds. So there's the instant effect and the hold effect, and they're going to be represented differently. If you are in the game, you'll see like this little circle thing on the top left-hand side, and if the circle fills up, that will be your hold ability. There's a little square there with a 1, and that will be your instant ability, which also fills up as you attack the monster. Basically, the more you attack the monster, the more you fill up your lantern. And as you can see, if I hold the Embermane, it's going to create a fireball in front of you that explodes after 5 seconds, and it deals 750 blaze damage. So if you're fighting against frost monsters, it's pretty damn useful. Just be aware that it takes 5 seconds to explode. And when you do the instant, it attacks 30% faster. Usually the instant is a buff for your character, and the hold is going to be an offensive thing that you can do. Like if you look at the Drask, you use the instant, it increases your damage by 30% for 6 seconds. If you hold it, it's going to fire a lightning bolt directly ahead of you, and it's going to deal 150 damage, and it pierces through the monster. You got the Scar here that gives you 250 hit point shield for 6 seconds, and if you hold it down, it's going to give you like this rotating shield around your character, deals damage. So it is important to pick a lantern that suits you. Usually the way that I do it is I just pick something that's opposite to the element, so that I use the offensive ability a lot. So I tend to be using Pangar Shrine, Embermane, whatever. But it's going to be up to you to really decide what the hell do you even want to use. So yeah, keep that in mind. Lantern, another very important thing. As a matter of fact, when you are playing the game, do not forget to use your lantern, because it's something that a lot of people are going to forget to use, and it is actually really important because it can improve your damage quite a bit. Now, after all of this, if you guys have been playing the game, if you guys have been trying it out, before we actually get into actual gameplay tips of when you are actually hunting monsters, some of you might be wondering, okay, so I'm invested into the game, I want to put some money into it. And I'm not saying that you should, I'm not saying that you have to, you really don't. I'm just saying that if you do spend money on anything in the game, there is one thing that I would tell you to get, just one. Like, if you're thinking, oh, I got $10 that I want to throw at this or whatever, this is the only thing that you would want to get, and that is the Hunt Pass. And I'll explain why. Why the Hunt Pass? Because this Hunt Pass, even though they'll tell you, oh, it's cosmetics and all this other stuff, this Hunt Pass has a significant gameplay impact. And you guys are like, oh, it's the cores, right? Because it's got these cores, the golden cores and stuff. That is one thing. That's not the biggest thing. The biggest thing about this pass, as far as I'm concerned, is the 50% mastery experience. If you have the Hunt Pass, you gain 50% more experience for your mastery, which is the thing that we talked about earlier with the mastery system that gives you all of these different unlocks for the different weapons that you have. Like, you remember these rewards that we were talking about? That is potentially the most important thing for the Hunt Pass, at least in my opinion. Because, like, cosmetics, I can take them or leave them. I really don't care all that much about that stuff. But 50% mastery experience, as well as bonus loot at the end of every hunt, basically every hunt that you do, you gain additional loot, is going to significantly speed up your progression throughout the game. And like I said, it has a significant gameplay impact as far as I'm concerned. So if you're going to throw money at anything in this game, the hunt pass, or don't even throw money at it. It's completely up to you. I'm just saying, if you find yourself in a position where it's like, man, this store, I don't know what I want to get, hunt pass. That's what you want to get. Don't even worry about anything else, okay? And I mean the regular version. You guys might look at the hunt pass and there's like 2 versions. Actually, I don't know if I can see the second version now. But basically, there's like an even more premium version that costs more than double, and it gives you the first 15 levels. Don't do that one. Personally, I wouldn't get that one. Unless you're super stressed for time or whatever, but like the regular pass is more than enough. Okay, now that you know all of these things, and you can rewind the video if you need to get a recap on any of them. Here's a couple of tips for when you actually go out into a hunt. First thing, as you are running in a hunt, you're going to be looking for the monster. So the very start of the hunt is not super critical. Everybody's just running around trying to find the monster, right? As you do this, look for materials. They have little glowy stuff around them. Look for materials around the map and pick up as many of them as you can. Now, look, do not delay getting to the monster, because you'll also want to get a good score so that you can get good rewards. And getting a good score is going to demand that you are near the monster, beating the monster, doing a good job. So don't delay when people find a monster. Go to the monster when people find it. But when you are looking for the monster, if you spot materials along the way, be sure to pick those up, because you're going to need them to craft grenades, to craft potions, and sometimes some of the armors will also require the different material types for you to craft that armor. You might need some iron or whatever. Actually, I don't know if that's still accurate. It might not be super accurate, but either way, grab materials as you are walking towards the monster so that you don't find yourself like, oh man, I need Omni whatever thing and I don't have any. Yeah, because you've ignored materials all this time. Like, always pick up materials along the way before you fight the monster. If you are the first player seeing the monster, shoot your flare. Shooting your flare is super easy if you're using a controller. I don't know how to do it with keyboard and mouse. I always use controller for these types of games. But you press your L2 button, and then you just use the right stick, go up, and the upmost thing should be your flare. That will fire a flare up into the air that will signal the other hunters, and basically people will know, oh, he's found the monster, and everybody starts converging onto that position. If when you are fighting a monster, you see that, oh, it looks like somebody hasn't found the monster yet, keep flaring. Flare and flare until everybody is at the monster, because sometimes people see the flare, but then the flare is gone after a while and they're lost and they're like, oh, I don't know if the monster's to the left or the right, I don't know. And if you just keep that flare going, people will eventually get to you, okay? Having said that, don't really use your flare for anything else unless you are playing on a pre-made team and you're like, oh, guys, I'm going to shoot a flare. I found this special material or whatever. Don't use your flare for anything else. Just use your flare for signaling for the monster when you are playing in a public group that is not just among friends, right? Because that's pretty much what people expect. Like, if they see a flare, they expect it to be for the monster. There's no limit to flares, so just like whenever you find it, flare it up and keep flaring it. Naturally, if you're running around a monster, in order to position yourself to deal some damage, you'll notice that whenever you run with your weapon drawn, you're going to be expending stamina. Now, an interesting thing about Dauntless is that if you actually sheath your weapon and then you run, not only your character does not expend stamina, but you can also regenerate stamina despite the fact that you are running, so long as you have your weapon sheathed. So if you need to gain some distance from the monster, to heal up, or to, I don't know, you just need some stamina, make sure to sheath your weapon and then run away, and you can be regaining stamina while you are running away from the monster. And then when you're ready, just unsheath your weapon and unleash the pain again. Like I told you guys, there's the boop the snoot mechanic, which is particularly important if you are using the hammer. If you see a monster that is like charging towards your party, there's a good chance that if you shoot it in the face, you're gonna need to get used to the timing, because the timing is not exact. It's not like a parry or anything like that. You need to shoot it well in advance. But once you get the timing down, you get a lot of openings on monsters that do charges, like Shrikes and Ember Mains and stuff like that. They will charge at your party, and you can just like shoot them right in the face, and they will like flip over, fall over to the ground, and give everybody a massive opening. So boop the snoot, super important if you have a weapon that can do it. Regular weapons besides the hammer can do it. I don't know all of them, but just like do the research, see if your weapon can boop, and if you can, boop the snoot as often as possible. If you can't boop, or if you don't know how to boop, another good tip is whenever there's one of those monsters that does charge, if you see him run away from your group, try to go towards someone that can boop. So like if there's a hammer user on your group, go towards that hammer user because that is going to narrow the monster's options. And if everybody's near the hammer user, the monster's always going to charge in that direction. And that makes it a lot easier for hammer users to boop the snoot and give you guys the opening that everybody wants. The other thing is ether. Whenever you are fighting a behemoth in the location that you are fighting him, most likely there will be like a crack in the earth. And it's got like this blue stuff coming out of it. That is ether. You can go there and you can consume that. So that will heal you and it'll also fill up your lantern. That's really cool, but it has limited uses. I don't know how many uses you can get out of it. So basically be aware that that is an alternative to using your healing potions, but at the same time, that is shared. So like if you just sit there sniffing ether the whole fight, nobody else can use it. So remember that you should use it, but you also need to share it. So don't just like sniff all the ether and everybody's just like, hey, what about me, man? I also want to sniff some ether, you know? So keep those things in mind. The ether is there. I told you guys earlier that you can resurrect yourself 3 times. So you can drop dead and resurrect yourself 3 times. But keep in mind, other players can resurrect you as well. So if you are in a party of players, see if there's an opening for them to resurrect you and save your resurrections for when it is critical. Okay, this is particularly important during tough encounters because sometimes you will get to a point where your danger meter is going to get to the maximum and then players can't resurrect you anymore. Now you guys are like, what the hell is the danger meter? Well, on the top right-hand side, when you are doing a hunt, there's going to be like this triangle thing. It's going to have a percentage. That is the danger meter. And that is going to change depending on how the fight is going. So if the fight is going bad, if people are taking tons of damage and they're being forced to use all of their heals and the behemoth is just like dropping people left and right, the danger meter is going to start raising faster. And as the more the danger meter raises, the more it gets closer to 100%. Once you get to 100%, players cannot resurrect each other anymore. So up until you get to 100%, like if I die, you can come over to me, you can resurrect me. If you die, I can come over to you, I can resurrect you. You get to 100% danger, you can't resurrect people anymore. But the self-resurrections still work. That's why it is important for you to save those for when you actually really need them. And finally, just like in Monster Hunter, in order to craft certain pieces of gear or certain weapons, you're going to require specific materials, which sometimes will require you to break specific parts of the monsters. So if it's a claw type material, you might want to break the monster's legs. If it's a beak type material, you might want to break its face. If it's a tusk, you might want to break its horns. If it's a tail something, you might want to chop off its tail. And do remember, hammers can't chop off tails. But yeah, you're going to want to break specific parts. So if you're wondering, why have I killed this monster 100 times and I still haven't gotten this one part that I really need, it probably means that you haven't been breaking the right parts and you need to focus on that. And hopefully you will have a group that helps you out in achieving that, because if you're just dependent on randoms, it sometimes can be tough to get some of the parts that you want. So keep that in mind. Breaking specific parts in behemoths is going to give you specific rewards, which you might need in order to craft armor or weapons. But anyway, this video is already way longer than I had planned for. I just wanted a quick tips video and I ended up with like 40 minutes or however long this thing ends up being. So I'm going to call it here. Hopefully this gives you guys a lot of tips, a lot of useful information for Dauntless. If there's stuff that I missed, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Do remember I was trying to keep it as basic as possible. I want to work on remaking the weapon tutorials that I did in the past, which, by the way, they're still mostly valid. It's just a couple of weapons have a couple of different move sets now. But the tutorials that I've done in the past still work. So if you're still looking for like, oh, I want to learn how to use this weapon, like, you can look at those tutorials and they're still pretty good for most of the stuff. But I'm going to be working on new ones as soon as I can. But having said that, that's going to be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, hit it up with a like. It helps me out immensely. Comments and feedback in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy my content, remember, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon. Stay strong, and may your shields never break.